This is the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, with Kreese, Rino, and Mark, bringing you all your Defo news and talk. Welcome to Season 3, the Chaos Era. Now let's start the show.
Well, everyone, here we are. Time for a feast of the mind and the soul called the Crystal Chronicles, as we bring our Final Fantasy cook to the foreground and talk about that and so much more. If you are joining us on Twitch, or if you're watching video on demand, or anything else, YouTube, that's the thing I was thinking of. You probably saw of course, our introduction, and you probably saw a new little video that runs before we shoot. And thanks to our good friend Dreamy of the Tonberry Troop for throwing that together. Hate 13, of course, for the voice, and our good friend Jin Lee for the backgrounds and the animations. So thanks to the whole team for making that happen. I appreciate that, and it looks like people on Twitch here are appreciating that as well. Well, I am Mark, and I am your host, and I am always glad to be here. All of you joining us online, all of you catching us through the podcast. This is my second podcast of the day. I was able to host an episode of RFR Q&A, which is a Patreon show for the Rebel Force Radio Star Wars podcast, one of the longest running podcasts in all of podcast history. It is a just wonderful weekly podcast about all things Star Wars, so check it out, and if you like it, you can support them and listen to me with Jimmy Mack talking about the wars. But today we are talking about the fantasy, the Final Fantasy, in particular, Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, and I am joined by not one, not two, but three co-host. First, he is getting right off from work, and he stayed till the end, so no worries there. His name is Mino Spellgood. How you doing, Mino?
Hey, Mark. I just got here. It's Valentine's tomorrow. You have any plans?
I am going to get up and get all the kids ready for school. I have bought my wife something. Unfortunately, it's exciting. We've started a new, Jake is telling me that the slide says episode 99. That is incorrect. It is episode 89. We'll get back to that in a second. We're starting this new lifestyle, so we're eating very well, and so I can't take her out to dinner like I would normally, and I can't buy her candy or chocolate, so I've got a gift I think that is appropriate. We might even have some time without at least two of our children this weekend, so that will be fun, and then we'll be celebrating some birthdays on the week. Do you have any plans? Are you asking any special ladies or gentlemen? Hey, either way, or in between, non-designated gender to have a day with?
Kinda, sorta. I think I'm gonna get really, really wasted. I think I'm picking up some really strong tequila when I get off work, and then I'm going to play hentai games all night in my boxers.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Visual novels, Japanese visual novels.
Visual novels. Yes, thank you.
That's very romantic.
Have you ever played the old game? I just think of from my college days of what's it called? True Love, Perfect Love. It was a computer game that we all played through in college, together, which was kind of weird, I guess, thinking back. But I'll have to see what that's called. But hey, we're also joined with someone else who's not Mino. And his name is Kreese. He probably has much more nobler plans. That's
not a high bar to reach.
It's not. Leisure Suit Larry. Yeah, there's one.
I mean, planning to go just drink heavily and pass out is a higher bar than what Mino's leveling here.
Hey, and we're also joined by someone else. The show's already derailed. It's great. It's great to be here tonight. And he has, of course, done a lot for our community. He's an excellent player. He's doing some good video work on YouTube, and he does all of our graphics and emotes. And we're glad to have him on the show in voice. And his name is Jin Lee. Jin, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Mark. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad I could make it today.
I am glad you can be here too. Feel free to insert yourself, of course. You are a longtime listener of the show, so you know how it works. Just tell Mino to shut up and talk. That's how we do it.
Yes.
Thank you, Broadway, for the host. And I want to shout out to Hallowed Sins for the subscription with Prime. Everybody who... Mr. Ken. Thank you, Broadway. Thank you, all of you, for following and for subscribing. And Illuminasa, thank you for the subscription, if I pronounced that right. I was going to say Illuminara. That's a Star Wars reference. But Illuminasa, thank you. Super epic. So, this is episode 89. I know the slide says 99 because I apparently can't read when I edit, and I have no way to edit that on the fly. So just really realize if you're watching this, it is episode 89 of the Crystal Chronicles. We call this season 3 because it's all about chaos. And I don't know, I've not looked at my game in the last few minutes. There's not been a lot of news on the DFFOO Horizon this week, besides our new events or anything else. We did get a rerun of the Zack costume. Although I do own it, one of the least exciting of the costumes. It kind of just changes his color and changes his hair. And so you can get that in the gem bundles. Of course, there are all kinds of ongoing sales. And maybe currently 3 Sephiroth, shirtless Sephiroth, amazing costume, of course. Zack's costume, his soldier costume from earlier in Crisis Core, and I think Bart's classic outfit is still available too. And we did just get an announcement for Tier 7 of Dimensions End. So in Tier 7, you'll be pitted against Lunatic Crust Beetles. Those are Rose's boss, correct? And Lunatic Kaiser Behemoths and other fearsome enemies. So it is a tough tier of Dimensions End. Thankfully, we have some new tools currently, and we're going to have some new tools moving forward. So that is the news of the day. Not much. We're still waiting for a taste, a preview, a hint, a look, a video, anything to see what is going to be Aranea. But at this point, on the 13th here in the United States, we don't have anything to tell you. So that will be next week, and we may pop out something a little bit earlier, but for the time being, that is all we can show you. That does bring us to something we want to continue to do, which is look back at the characters we have gone over before, or some characters that maybe came out when we were streaming, and now we can look back and talk about them. So I would encourage you, just before we do that, there seems to be a little instability in the bandwidth tonight. So right now it looks fine, but it may jump in and out. Just hang with us if you're watching online. If you're listening, you're not going to know anything. Don't worry about it. If you're with us tonight, thank you. Just hang with us. Not sure what that's going out, but it is weird weather here, so that could have something to do with it. So first we had the Golbez Lost Chapter in 7. Anybody have any new insight, or maybe Jin wants to share something about 7 or Golbez that they wanted to talk, now that we've had those characters here for a week or so, maybe 2 weeks?
Well, I'd say Golbez. Oh, go ahead, Mina.
No, I was just going to prompt you, but yeah, go ahead, Jin. Any new retrospectives for anybody that played these characters? I know some of you pulled Golbez, but sorry, go ahead, Jin.
I was just going to say that I feel Golbez is pretty much what we expected. He hits hard, and he can actually last long battles now. But otherwise, he's just a DPS. I don't find him too exciting, personally.
I'd have to agree with that. A fully built Golbez is great, and as was hyped, he is making short work for a bunch of these co-ops he's synergy in. But I have no regrets passing, other than making board farming easier. But Kreese, did you pull Golbez? I don't remember.
I've had his EX for a long time. I booked him. I decided not to invest any more in him. I mean, he still does the same thing that he did before, just better now. And it's not even substantially better. He just hits a little harder. He has the same number of hits. His EX is better. He has more free ability uses. He's just a very solid DPS, but he's a very selfish DPS too.
All right, so we got it in one. We nailed Golbez before he came. Well, no, we had some hands-on time, I guess. 7. Did you end up realizing 7?
No, I might go back and book her at some point, but I've been saving my books for next month and later this month.
Any of you gentlemen have anything to add to 7? Jin, Mark?
I threw some more tickets. I mean, from the original Golbez banner, I threw some tickets. I don't think I pulled either one of those EXs, so no experience there besides seeing Golbez in co-op just destroying things with all his meteors. And thank you, and Ruin23 for the Twitch Prime subscription. Appreciate that. But yeah, so let's go to King and 8. I was like, there was another character I don't remember. Those were the characters that launched last week. We did get them. Again, yep, a little bit.
I think the stream is dead for some people.
Yep, just hang on with it.
Should be going. Yeah, it's just buffering.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Looks like it might just be Twitch. I don't know. I hear Mark fine.
yeah,
Here, edit that out.
yeah. I'm not sure what's going on with the Twitch tonight. So
Oh no, it's dead now. Yeah, I refresh and it's just offline.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, same thing.
okay, well let's hold on for everybody. So, how do we want to do this? Let me see what we can pull up here. Crap. Yeah, it's dead. I'm not sure what.
While we're figuring that out, Jin, did you get my message? I was asking, do you have a story queued for story time?
I can come up with the story if we're doing story time. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying, let's prepare for that.
All right. Yeah, I can do something.
All right. Well, I hate to do this, but let me stop the stream and restart it. See if I can figure out what's going on here. Where were we in the where were we in the recording? About 10 minutes in. Yeah, I'm having some. It's not even stopping here. Yep. Crap. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. It's not even stopping. There seems to be. I'm not really sure what's be the issue here. I may have to stop altogether and restart.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. So hang out with people there, and let me stop. Let's just continue and
What do we want to do?
No, let's just keep going, and if we drop again, we'll just kind of wait. And thank you all for hanging out with us. So let's just keep going, and worst case, we'll get it out as the podcast and go from there. So. Yeah, there's no one on my internet right now, so I'm not really sure what is the issue. But right now we're working. It's just going to be a nightmare to cut that together, but we'll make it work. So let's pick up at King and 8. So looking back at those two
King,
characters.
there you
Yes. So what do you have to say about
Wait,
that?
did we finish 7? Did anyone else have
basically nothing
anything?
to say about 7.
Okay, all right. So So Pierre spliced us all back together afterwards. Let's start on King. So I know Mark 3-3'd King. Did you play around with him, Mark?
I did, and I like King a lot. He's pretty simple. I think we talked about you can recharge his AA, which is really cool because then you can use that to unbreak enemies and re-break them. And yeah, I mean it's that's really kind of a cool bonus to a very straightforward kit, which is pew 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 pew. But yeah, I like him. He has longevity. He's just a nice solid DPS option. Pairs well with a lot of other characters. And I think every once in a while, those kind of characters are nice to have. So, yeah.
Jin, did you 3-3 King?
I was very tempted to, because actually I was quite surprised how fun he was, considering how simple he is. But I refrained, and I keep him at 0-3 because I think I can still use him in Dimensions End at 0-3 because of his free turns and his longevity.
I guess so, but yeah, I mean, King is great. I said so last week. I want all the listeners right here to keep that in mind. All my reviews are spot on, so don't get angry later tonight when we touch on Zack and Ignis. But no, I have a lot more insight on King now because I tried him out in a lot of places, and some interesting stuff. Nothing that changes the rating, but basically, while he's okay in single target fights, and of course he can pump out a bunch of damage, I don't actually like him for single target fights because he doesn't get to break that often and get his free turn. I mean, he only does single target damage, but he's not at his best in a single target fight. Whereas in fights with 2 or 3 targets, where he gets plenty of chances of breaking without you having to set it up, he shaves off so much off my turn count. I've been using him I used him for story chaos, I used him for 8 chaos, and I used him going back to like CPU chaos, and he puts in pretty good work. But I do want to say that the longevity thing is a little bit of a myth because I'm usually running out of skills at the end of chaoses, and that's because with his free turns, he is going about 2 to 3 times more than every other character. So when you're maximizing King, he really is going to burn through all his crap. But he still hasn't run out for me. So he's pretty great on that. I still think King is a very solid, strong character, and I do recommend people pulling for him if you need a strong DPS.
I think he pairs well with like Rem or Yeesh because neither of them really do brave hits. And Rem can set him up for the free break turns, and then they can battery him. So if you're kind of running out of skills, you can easily HP, which is fine. So
yeah, I run him with Rosa a lot. Prayer helps a lot too.
Yeah, exactly. It's just about pairing him well with others.
Oh, and chat's asking, so I ended up gem pulling King. Yeah, I ended up so after the 360 tickets, I went 65k gems deep, and then I drunkenly messaged Josh. I have the screenshots. So sad. Sorry, Josh, if you're listening.
He is in
Oh,
the
he's in the chat now.
Oh, he is? Crap. Well, I got really drunk. After I pulled King, I was so mad, I PM'd Josh, and I was like, I don't know how, but I blame you for this somehow. And anyways, that's a disaster story for another time. But moving
so Josh
on to
withholding Aranea info because you were calling him out. Gotcha.
Yep.
No, we'll talk about
it's
Aranea
Mino's
info,
fault.
yeah.
It's Mino's fault.
It is Mino's fault. I think we just figured that out.
And no, seriously, chat, please don't message Josh asking him where the Aranea info is. We'll talk about that a little later. Moving on to 8. Who 3-3'd 8 here?
I do not have 8.
I never even pulled him. I didn't pull him.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I have something to add to 8. Again, not changing his rating at all, but his damage without the counters is more respectable than I thought. Still not like, I still stand by what I say. If you're not getting counters off him, it's not worth bringing him. But he's not completely useless without the counters, which is nice to see. But I am seeing a lot of people not using 8 in a lot of current content. And he really is just that specialized, or people don't want to put in the work. So that's the update from that.
Well, I think both things are fair. He is very, very specialized, and you do have to build around him. So, yeah, you might not see him in every content, just like a lot of other things. That does bring us back to the 8 event, which was called the Power of Tranquility, and the Chaos Battle, which made us fight a couple of big dog-looking things. Did we want to walk through that? Anybody, Mino, Jin, take us through that Chaos Battle?
Jin, do you want the honors? As you're the guest, you get first dibs on everything tonight here.
The 8 chaos battle?
Yeah, the
Want to walk us through the mechanics?
Cerberus type enemy.
Well, I pretty much just did. I mean, the only run I did was the video I posted, pretty much, and I took King, Rem, and Setzer just because I wanted to have some fun. And yeah, that's how I found out that Rem works really well with King, setting him up all the time for free breaks, free turns. So that's how I stayed under the turn count, because the turn count is pretty tight because they take into account King's free abilities.
Yes.
Or free turns rather.
You mean 8's free counters?
Yeah,
Yes,
I guess both
counters.
of them. Yeah, 8 brings counters, so free damage pretty much. They take into account free damage, so the turn count is quite tight. So having King and Rem helped me to stay below the turn count. And if you do, you should make the score. I would say that the most difficult is probably the Kraken, because of the way it can delay everybody and it's very fast. So actually having Rem made it really easy because she didn't really care if people got sent back. The Cerberus dog, I would say, isn't that difficult if you can shave him, because all his AoE attacks are just brave attacks. So you just need to be able to shave him afterwards, and then it's not that big of a deal. So I would say the hardest things are getting past the Kraken and then keeping under turn count. And it's pretty simple after that.
In my experience,
what was your turn count? Oh, sorry,
just
Chris,
to
go
quickly
ahead.
chime in, is this fight wasn't necessarily dangerous if you knew what you were doing and you brought the right team, but the turn count and the score requirements were pretty tight. That's my experience with it.
Yeah, it is 100% the turn count, and turn count's the issue going forward. This is a little power creep in the DPS, as we'll see with Gal's event coming up. It is 100% the turn count. It's not dangerous. It's having enough DPS to do it, because just like 8, it's built around a character that's getting a lot of free damage off of counters off your turns. And like I linked some videos in Discord general. We'll talk about Gao, but like Gao is doing 40k every time the enemy moves, and it's built around that. So you have to bring some insane damage to keep up if you don't want to bring the synergy character. But out of curiosity, Jin, what was your turn count with Rem and King?
My turn count was 91, which it's kind of close, but I mean, my King was 0-3, so any a 3-3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a 3-3 King would have destroyed it.
Because I was saying with a 3-3 King, I remember I did it, and I did it on the first try because I 3-3 King, and he was like ready to go, good arts, max boards, and everything. And I only beat the turn count by like 16 turns or something, and I was getting free turns constantly. So I immediately went onto our Discord and I was like, hey, is this fight bullshit without synergy? Because I had so many free turns, and I only cut it by like 15 turns. And I was like, it should have been way more than that, right? Like, I can't imagine how many actual turns it takes. And I was curious about Rem, because I know Rem has some free turns. But yeah, hitting 90, Jesus, what a rough fight. Mark, do you have anything else to add before we move on?
No, you see a lot of Y'shtolas, a lot of Rosas, a lot of Ultimishas, a lot of, the same kind of characters. You can, there's several, I think Heretic had one, several dual runs with 8 and King only. There's one Levi with Celeste and King, but yeah, 8 and King dual run, so you see that popping up. Yeah, trying to look for some other ones, that may be a little bit off the grid, but yeah, most of them. I mean, Y'shtola, Rosa Emperor, Y'shtola, Tifa, Setzer, lots of Tifas, Setzer, Locke, Lilizette, ESB 422. a good run. I think in Macnol's called Arms, MACNOL, the C2A are called Arms. He had a couple budget teams, Ramza, Shirlata, and 8, a fully limit broke 8. Ultima did that. Then Gaming, Shits did Warrior of Light, Rosa, and King. No limit broke on, or 0 ML, 0 ingots on King and Warrior of Light. And Tequila 7, Shirlata, Tifa, and Warrior of Light. So those were kind of the budget runs, and but yeah, you just see a lot of powerhouses, a lot of turn manipulation, or a lot of raw damage like King and Tifa, throwing it out there. So you either need to figure out a way to save yourself turns, or you need to do all the work. So
running with Celeste is a nice way to get a safe clear. She's not necessarily fast enough unless you pair her with a really high damage, and preferably boosted damage.
Yeah.
Celeste is great because she can tank the high brave hits. So because the Cerberus is only going to do single target HP damage, so she can tank all the HP damage.
Yeah, she can tank all the HP damage. She has a pretty sizable HP regen on her own, so she doesn't really need a supporting healer. I ran her with Rosa anyways for the auras, but the healing was not what Rosa was doing. It was really just the battery and attack bonuses.
Well, that does take us away from the 8 event, the Power of Tranquility, which you still have the opportunity to pull on and the opportunity to move through over the next week. How many days are left? 6 days. So by the time we see you again, you will not be able to do it. So do finish that up, finish those co-ops up and all that, get all your rewards. And that does bring us to Act 2, Chapter 7, Respite's Authenticity. So that is our new story chapter in the second act. So you either need to have played through all of it or need to have gone to the second act and unlocked the first 6 chapters to get to this. With this, we got a new banner with Zack, Ignis, who's a new character for us, and Noctis. Just 2 EXs, so Noctis does not, have his EX on this. Zack does. Zack has a realization, and Ignis is a completely new kit. So let's talk about the characters before we talk a little bit about what we've experienced in the event itself so far. So, I think Jin Lee is going to talk about Zack. Jin Lee did an excellent video on Zack, and you can check that out on YouTube. He can tell us what the best way to do that is, but I would just say search Jin Lee Defo, or you can come on Discord, or you can look on our Twitter at TCC Podcast. And I think that's our Twitter. It's on the screen. What's it say? At FFTCC Podcast. There you go. And I've shared that as well. So, Jen, why don't you walk us through, and I think Kreese is going to help too. Kreese maybe is going to walk us through the realization, then Jen's going to talk a little bit more about Zack. So, sorry, Kreese, why don't you start here?
Yeah, so Zack has not changed since his 70 Awakening. He still has the same additional ability. His first 2 abilities, Chain Slash and Rush Assault, have not changed. Everything is packed into his new EX Realization. Just realizing it gives him a lot of overflow and damage increase, and it also, one of the biggest bonuses he gets is he now gains healing based on HP damage dealt from Apocalypse. Booking or adding ingots to his EX weapon gives him pretty massive attack and max brave bonuses, and also unlocks Brave ++ and HP ++. Brave ++ is just a stronger version of Brave Plus, so it still inflicts lock on a single target, and it just hits harder. HP ++ now has a Brave hit associated with it, and as Zack gains more Brave after the HP hit based on damage dealt. He also gets a last stand mechanic if you ingot him twice, and his EX ability gets much stronger, fully realized, plus he gains overflow on all of his abilities like Sephiroth did. So in general, Zack is one of those offensive tanks. He is meant to deal a lot of damage while tanking a lot of hits. So he is a character you're going to want to fully realize if you want to use him in tippity-top content.
Jin, you want to walk us through form and function here?
Yeah, sure. Well, pretty much, I mean, Zack was actually quite good, like, on his base kit. That's why they actually didn't even need to rework him. Like, for fights that were primarily single target attacks, he could cheese those way better than Wall ever could. And now he just gets everything he needs to become a god. Pretty much his EX Plus makes him nearly unkillable. The only thing he can't do like Wall is prevent others from getting killed. But otherwise, he's like impossible to kill with his Brave Refund. He gets it on all his attacks pretty much. And he has emergency healing on his EX now. And his shield is obviously what makes him special. Because if the damage, the brave damage is less than 150% of his eye brave, he will not take any brave damage. And if it is a little bit over, then it will just subtract that. And then he also has physical resist from his skill 1, so he's pretty much impossible to kill, which is why now that he has higher damage, he's more chaos viable. That's why he becomes the best tank in general terms for a while. So I think like his pros, he actually brings like great auras too. For a non-support, he brings great auras, 40% attack and max brave.
Yeah.
His EX is really fast, so his shield is always up, and his locks are always up on all the enemies. So you generally don't have to worry about Zack much when you're playing with him. That's why he's actually quite beginner friendly too, because he just takes care of himself and he can take all the damage from everybody. But he does have the cons, like I mentioned. He doesn't protect the party from AoE attacks like Wall does. So Wall can still excel in certain fights better than Zack. So they don't exactly quite tank the same way. So you can't say like, oh, Zack will replace Wall and everything. And he also takes up 4 buff slots for himself. His EX is magic, so the rest of his kit is melee. So if certain dimensions end or fight resists one of or the other, he's kind of locked out. And also if they resist debuffs, then he's also locked out because he can't lock onto the enemy. And then he has an annoying last wave passive, which is amazing. So I recommend getting it, but it's only the last wave. And he has to be at full health for that passive to process. So if he's not at full health, then you really lose a lot of damage from him on the last wave as well, along with all the other waves previously. So I think, but overall, its general consensus is he is by far the best unit for a long time to bring into many team comps. So I highly recommend everyone pulling for him. Unless you really don't like him, then you won't regret it. But I do want to go over, there's a quote-unquote bug with his shield. It's not exactly a bug because it's correctly, the way that the game works, it actually processes it properly, but it actually hurts Zack quite a bit, is that when his previous EX cast was made with a higher eye brave, then his next EX cast will not refresh the shield if it has a lower eye brave than his previous cast. And there's so many situations that this can actually happen that you actually have to pay attention to when you're casting his EX and what situation it is. So say, for example, if you use his C65, which increases his eye brave, and you cast the EX, the next EX cast will not refresh. Same goes with if he's debuffed his eye brave on the next EX cast, it will not refresh. If Rosa or Lana's buffs are not up, or they've been switched out of summon, it will not refresh on the second EX cast. So pretty much anything that lowers his eye brave from the previous one between EX casts, it will not refresh his shield, which is his main thing. So it's pretty annoying. And the only workarounds currently are just let the buff expire and then cast the EX. Otherwise, you're wasting your EX and you will have longer turns without the shield. And this does eventually get fixed in JP down the line, but it's like way later. They fix it after Arciela, who also buffs in Brave. So that's when it gets addressed. But hopefully GL fixes it earlier.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it is a big issue if you're not paying attention, and it's hard to know that that's happening until it happens. So it could potentially ruin a run for you, especially if turn counts are tight. So pay attention. I want to shout out Lift Rogue. Thank you for the subscription. Yeah, and Josh says, Squex Joshua, who is our community manager from the Squex, says, fun fact, him soloing Dark Bahamut in the Twitter video, which they share at Dissidia FFOO, the official Twitter, that can be done legitimately. And as Dreamy and I believe Luminasa were mentioning, someone posted on Reddit, I don't know who that is off the top of my head, a solo Entropy 4 run with Zack. So Zack soloing Entropy 4. So I don't know that was done in Japan, to my knowledge. So some thoughtful player did that. A lot of us will be bringing Zack into Entropy Tier 7, which was just announced. So, Mino, you were going to say?
Yeah, so, I mean, to address the bug, it is going to get fixed, as Jin Lee said, but I don't know how it functioned before this because we didn't pay attention to it. I know there's a lot of discussion where we were investigating for this week. People said Warrior of Light's shields will refresh regardless of whether the new value is higher or not. I don't know if I believe that. Thankfully, Josh is in here. Maybe, Josh, you can confirm that for us. But the rumor is that they call it a bug because Warrior of Light doesn't suffer from that, and his shitty shields will override his stronger shields if needed. But basically, I want to say it's not a bug. It's just a lack of oversight, because I remember this quote-unquote bug was an FF14 too, so it must be a Square Enix thing, where basically in FF14 there's a spell called Stone Skin that works exactly like Warrior of Light's shield, where it gives you a temporary shield of a certain amount, and a lower one will not override a higher one. And when the game launched, the same thing happened with poisons and dots. Weaker poisons would not override stronger ones. And I believe it's only when the player base complained, saying this makes it inconvenient. Because, from a dev standpoint, this is a quality of life thing, because you don't want your players, you don't want Warrior of Light overriding a 10k shield with a 1k shield or something and potentially screwing themselves over. And with Warrior of Light, it's easier to not hit this problem, because if the shield is weaker, he can throw a stronger one on, and it'll override with a stronger one. So, nice and easy. But Zack is now a new case that they probably didn't think of, where his shield is a constant value, and the only thing that runs out is the duration. And I know eventually in FF14, eventually in DFFOO, they fix this, because it's better to refresh a shield with 1 turn with a weaker shield for 5 turns, I guess. I mean, skill ceiling be damned. If you want to screw yourself, you can screw yourself. But the point is, it's convenient there for when you want to use it. So as Jin Lee said, look forward to that change in a couple of months, unless GL speeds it up and we get it right away. It's a tough call if you want this or not, I think. You could definitely play around this, right, guys? This isn't like a game-breaking thing. You can plan around it. It's just good to know about it.
Yeah, you have to know about it.
Yeah. So it's good to get that information out and to plan around that. And okay, now on to the bad news. Let's trash Zack for a bit. So,
yeah,
I think
his alternate costume's kind of garbage.
Waste of money.
I like his alternate costume.
We all bought it, so I don't know.
Yeah, we all bought it.
We all have it. I don't know why we're lying.
I remember I started the story chapter and I was like, I wonder when Zack's gonna get a costume. And my Zack was already wearing the costume.
All of the characters in those cutscenes had costumes. Yeah. I wish Ignis had a costume, because there's a scene with there's several scenes with Cloud, Zack, Ignis, Noctis, and Promptu, and all of them except Ignis had costumes. And then there was a one scene with all of them, with Ignis, Knock, Prompto, and I think there was a couple others like Garnet and somebody else, and they all had their costumes. I'm like, oh, poor Ignis. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right, to the bad stuff. So I think Zack is the most selfish tank to date. And I say this because I definitely tried this out before the show. He is the only tank that if he can't do damage, he can't battery in return. All the other current tanks right now have some sort of huge buff or huge battery on their kit. Zack is 100% reliant on his own Brave Shaving for damage and stuff. So, which means when you come against enemies with insane defenses or resistances, he's the only one who cannot override it easily. And I say this, I should have brought this up first, is a lot of people I've seen compare Zack and Warrior of Light. I don't think it's a fair comparison. A lot of people are saying, oh, you don't need Warrior of Light anymore. His time's at an end because we have Zack now, the new meta tank. Zack is the stronger tank. He is going to be amazing going forward, but he is not a Warrior of Light one-to-one replacement, which I'll get to other cases first. But the point is, I can bring Warrior of Light to any fight because he doesn't need to shave. He can throw shields or throw buckler, and he's gaining more than 50% of his Brave back and, like battering everybody else, and it's huge amounts of damage. Zack, if he cannot shave, he cannot do damage, and that is it. And following the trend of selfish tank is that he has no way of shielding his allies in any form. Right now, we have Celis, who reduces magic Brave damage taken by the group. We have Warrior of Light with the shields. We have Bosch, who absorbs AoE HP attacks. Zack doesn't do any of that. So if you fight any enemy that's AoE heavy, as we keep saying, coming up Gao's Chaos, or even he is not going to do anything for your team. I mean, Zack is invincible. He can tank things for days. He can heal himself, but he can't do shit for your team. So he's just going to sit there and watch the teammates die. I mean, I guess it's true to the source material. At the end of Crisis Core, he sends Cloud away before he does all the tanking because he knows realistically if Cloud was there, he wouldn't be able to protect Cloud. He could survive lots and lots of bullets. Cloud would just die instantly. So
Does he survive?
Yeah, kudos.
I think
kudos
Chat
to Square
is
for
having
that.
some issues with this whole line of discussion.
I think Chat is having some problems with your.
We'll address it. We'll address it. I mean, like right now, Polish Prince, you're saying can't compare him to Wall. It's called different playstyles. That's true. Polish Prince, what I was addressing is that if you go on the subreddit or you go on the Discord, you'll see a lot of people saying Wall's reign is at an end. Zack's here. In fact, yesterday, I literally saw one of the content creator streamers put up their stream, and the stream said, rest in peace, Warrior of Light, Zack is here. Right? So I'm saying that's why what I'm trying to hammer in is he is not a one-to-one replacement for Warrior of Light. He's a very different character. So I am addressing his weaknesses in comparison to the other tanks, which is, and I say selfish tank because, again, he doesn't battery, he doesn't buff as hard. He has a decent aura, which I do respect. But again, he's not a team player. He's a very plug-and-play, throw him on a team, he's going to do his own thing. He'll take the buffs, but he's not going to give anything to the team, and that's what I mean by the most selfish tank. His EX Plus is amazing now, very similar to Garland with the Brave refund and extra Brave plus HP hits. But what this also means is, unlike Cosmos era Zack, any magic resistance stage will shut him down because more than 50% of his DPS now comes from his EX, which is magic-based. So he is very firmly mixed damage now. I mean, if you have an Enchant Imperil, that's great. But I'm saying he used to be purely physical. You could bring him to magic attacks. Even if they resist his EX, so what? You get the taunt effect, you get the shield, and you beat him up with the abilities. Now, a lot of his damage is reliant on the EX+, so he is mixed damage types, and you need to watch out for that. Obviously watch out for enemies that are immune to debuff because he really needs to be hitting targets facing him. He's he's better than other tanks at single target. He's better at taking a lot of damage up front, a lot of brave damage up front. He has nothing to mitigate the HP damage other than on himself. And unless I'm missing anything, guys, any other weaknesses you can think of before we close this out?
Well, I mean, right now, Zack is the only tank that is doing significant damage. Every other tank right now kind of has, Wool has the protection, right, of everybody. Celeste can take the magic attacks. Bosch can take the area of effect attacks. But none of them are doing particularly good damage, so you have to figure out where to bring them.
You mean brave damage here, Mark?
Yeah, right. So...
Just to be clear, because Celeste, when she is tanking the right thing, takes battery so much that she is always dealing a lot of HP damage.
Right. But, I mean, he's consistently doing pretty high DPS for the current tanks that we have. So,
Oh, of course.
And he does bring a lot to the table, obviously. That's why he's considered one of the best, if not the best character for this era currently. So,
yeah. I said all that. Yeah. Of course, it's my job to say the bad stuff, but he gets an easy strong rating from me. It's no secret. He's the current Meta King, best character in this month by far, best character until the next Meta King, which comes with the next story chapter, best character in a long while. I'm just stating his weaknesses. He's still insanely strong meta investment. The reason he carries on where other tanks start to falter is because the other tanks stop being able to shave, and Zack can shave plenty, right? And that's his strength, the shave into damage. Other tanks can still battery into damage. Zack can shave into damage, and he's just an easy rating of strong. Like, there's no arguing he is the Meta King until the next one arrives, General Leo, next chapter. But just so you know, this is, like I said weeks ago, guys, it's my job to point out all the terrible stuff. Doesn't mean the character is bad itself. Let's remember that while we go into Ignis.
Also, to be fair to Wall, I think most people don't have him at 3-3.
Correct.
So to compare Wall to Zack 3-3 is not fair unless you have Wall at 3-3.
Yep.
And Wall at 3-3 is still quite good. So
very viable.
They don't replace each other. They're just great for different fights.
Wall is definitely much more useful in fights where you're going to take a lot of AoE brave damage that you can't mitigate another way.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the new character. His name is Ignis, and he is a support more than anything. And some people find him a little lackluster. Some people love Ignis from Final Fantasy 15 because he is all about the recipes, and he does a whole bunch of things. And it's somewhat confusing, but pretty simple. The base of his kit is he basically has two stances, or he makes two dishes, which allow you either to support the party with kind of offensive attack, max brave, and overflow buffs, or support the party with lesser attack and max brave buffs, but then HP regeneration and 100% debuff evasion. So that's kind of the base of his kit. He has these two stances. One is very offensive, one is very defensive. He also has healing, and he has tons of battery. And he also has a kind of a turn shenanigan mechanic with his EX, which will not come up often. So, at the base of his kit, he is a support that has offensive support, defensive support, mixed in depending on the stance, also has healing, also has some DPS in his battery, basically, and also can give some extra turns with his EX, or kind of bring allies before enemies with his EX. He doesn't give you extra turns, really, or free turns with his EX. So just to kind of go over his kit real quick, his first ability is Regroup. If you played Final Fantasy 15, that's probably the very first ability you ever used with Ignis, because he brings everybody together. And that is the ability he has the least amount of uses of, only 4. It heals the party twice, real nice. 50% of max HP, and then 100% I Brave. Parties the battery, 50% party HP, and grants him the first aid buff, which is a 15-turn buff that gives you attack and max Brave to the party. So it's an aura buff, which is nice. So ideally, if you don't have him fully limit broke, that's a nice thing to start out with. It is wasting a turn, but it does give you the buff, so you kind of have to frame that how you want it. Obviously, it'd be best to save it, but it doesn't count against your turn count and does give you that healing. But that is really his only healing besides his HP regen, which is very minimal. So if you want that burst healing, you want to hold on to those for the times you need them. His next ability is Quick Respite, and that is the ability that he gets post-game Final Fantasy 15, and of course here in Opera Omnia. And that actually counts as a turn, but it's an instant turn rate because it allows you then to unlock one of his dishes. And he has 2 dishes, so your Brave attack and your HP attack will turn into these dishes and represent which one you want to choose. The top one, or your Brave attack, is Memory Lane Pastry, and the bottom one is Papa Bird and Baby Bowl. So you kind of have to remember which one is which. The top one, Memory Lane Pastry, is the defensive one with the ability to prevent debuffs and give you some healing. And the bottom one, or where would you would have your HP attack, is the Papa Bird and Baby Bowl, and that is the offensive one that gives you the little bit better attack, max Brave, and overflow limit. Once you press either of those buttons, you will make the dish. He cooks the dish for you right there. You've all seen it. It's ridiculous. And then that unlocks his Brave plus plus or HP plus plus that goes along with either the pastry or the P and B. So they're each, are they pretty much the same? No, they're a little different depending on it. And that's why his artifacts are kind of hard, because the Memory Lane is based on iBrave, his battery is based on iBrave, and the Papa Bird and Baby Bowl is based on Max Brave. And so you'll see those two acting differently. So depending on which one you want to use the most, I personally think you're probably going to use Papa Bird and Baby Bowl most of the time. So that's why I would favor Max Brave with him. But you'll see Brave plus plus for the pastry is an iBrave battery. His HP plus plus is a Brave game based on iBrave and an HP attack, and batteries the allies based on that. The Brave plus plus and the HP plus plus from P and B is based on your Max Brave, but does Brave hits. And then his HP plus plus from P and B is Max Brave, 2 Brave hits, and HP attack. So he does have that, and then batteries the party as well. So that's really helpful because he is batterying the party all of the time. But the defensive dish gives you a little bit more battery depending on what your particular stats are. Those count as no turn count and are free, but then shoot you in, and you can only have one of those stances up. His AA is pretty simple, just gives everybody kind of a boost to Max Brave, and I think that's it, just Max Brave, yeah. But then that brings us to his EX ability, which is just a battery. It batteries the entire party and does an HP attack. But it triggers an additional HP attack based on 100% of the allies' Brave. So it combines the allies' Brave, and then that's how much the additional HP attack does. And it then gives you the ability to select an ally, and they get to act immediately. Then your next ally gets to go, then he gets to go. So if it's Ignis in front of the boss and he does his EX, and you select, let's say it's Ignis, Zack, throw somebody else, Tifa in there, and you select Tifa, then Tifa will immediately go before the boss, and then Zack will go before the boss, and then Ignis will go before the boss again after the EX. So that's a little turn manipulation that he gives there. If you unlock his realize his EX, he gets his Brave plus plus and HP plus plus attacks, which means you would want to do that. Gets a attack bonus buff, and he gets overflow with his EX. If you give him 1 Ignite, which will increase his iBrave and M-Brave, of course that helps his batteries. Very nice. 2, allow him to start the turn with first aid, start the the round with first aid 10 turns, which then gives him his aura and everything else, and you don't have to spend a first aid, and gives him 7 turns of ambrosia, which means you immediately get to choose which dish you want and go into a stance. So if you unlock it with 2 Iggies on Iggy, you get to not use regroup or quick recipe, but you get to use that immediately because you're going to already have those buffs. And then if you fully limit break it, fully realize it, overwhelm batteries additionally, and has more overflow. So not that's the least impressive of the group actually, but I did fully realize mine. Looking at his artifacts, he has 3 good artifacts. The first is really either one is iBrave or Max Brave, depending on what you want to do. And then Cooking for Comrades boost is his 50 CP, and that just increases further his iBrave and Max Brave. So I would say when Ambrosia's available. So I would try to get iBrave, Max Brave. Those would be perfect, but iBrave or Max Brave with Cooking Comrades is nice, and you just kind of figure out your play style in terms of which ones you get. So again, it is kind of a complicated kit in terms of he does a whole bunch of different things, but at the very base, he's a support that gives a defensive aura or an offensive aura and then batteries and gives you some extra utility. So I like him. I don't think he's the best of our support characters, considering we have Y'shtola and Rosa especially, but I think he's pretty good. I think he's certainly up there with some other characters that we've had in terms of support, and I think it's good to have as many support options as possible, so that's why I have him. Anybody else want to throw in anything there?
Jin Lee, do you have any insights?
Well, I would say that he's one of the rare supports that operate quite well at 0-3, and that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So at 0-3, you pretty much get a free ingot.
Yeah.
You only have to book him, and you can use him for Dimensions End easily.
No
because
doubt.
Other 3-3s, I mean, like Y'shtola needs 3-3, Rosa needs 3-3. He needs only 0-3 to actually function pretty well. So I think that's a huge bonus for him. And so that's the only reason I consider him valuable. Otherwise, I just think he's a Mimi chef.
He is Mimi, that is for sure. He can function as a solo support. He can function as an additional utility support as well. And let's not forget, he is one of the rare characters that has 100% debuff evasion. So when you need debuff evasion, he is very, very important. Or a character like him that has debuff evasion, which right now in the Realization era is not many. Lena, of course, will get realized, and she'll have that. But so
I'd say if you're playing him as your only support, then you actually have to be in Papa Bird stance most of the time.
Yep.
If pretty much you have to just time your debuff evasion and then go back to Papa Bird, because in the Memory Lane pastry stance, the attack aura is awful. It's just like he's just there for HP regen and debuff evasion. Otherwise, he's not a support really.
Right, and that's why I would prioritize Max Brave over Int Brave, just because of that. And his EX, I think, is also based on Max Brave, and Quick Recipe is based on Max Brave. Now, Regroup's based on iBrave, so it's good to have both. But I feel just in playing around with him, you are generally going to be in Papa Bird, Baby Bull stance more often. But that also means you need to know the enemies you're facing. I mean, so it's easy when you know there's going to be a bad breath from a Malboro, you can throw up the other stance. It might be a little harder in some fights if you're not used to the mechanics to know when they're going to throw the debuffs on. But right, he's not going to have, unless you're used to, unless you're willing to put him with another support or some additional characters who have auras, you're not going to have that 100% debuff evasion on all the time. At least I wouldn't think so.
Kreese, anything to add before I do my usual trade?
I threw some tickets at the banner, didn't get anything for Iggy. I'm not going to go any further. I've seen him 1 or 2 times in co-ops. He seems okay. I don't really have any strong feelings towards or against him.
His EX, let me say this, I'm sure there's tons of things I'm forgetting, but his EX is slow. And so it's not something you necessarily rely on to come up a lot, especially because you're going to be Brave plus HP plusing a lot too. So, his EX is not going to come up fast and you're not going to see it a lot, but when you have him, it's going to be good. Yeah, Inkwelder's saying I'd rather use him with Sarah and keep him in pastry mode. So, yeah, if you pair him with another support character like Sarah, who has some good utility, then you can keep him in that defensive mode, and other people are going to be making up for that attack, and that's fine. And if that's the case, yeah, you want to prioritize iBrave, I think, all the way. So, but yeah, it's a character that you can play a couple different ways.
I'm awake after that long explanation of his long kit. So I am so grateful that for the first time and only time this month, we got to try out the content before the episode, because the rest of these weeks they're just dropping content every time at literally the same time the podcast starts. Of course, it's not on purpose. It's our fault for picking this time period, but we used to be able to have a lot of hands-on experience before we talked about this. Now we kind of do it on the fly and break the evaluation in half, right? Like a preview and then a review next week. But luckily, we had a lot of hands-on time with Ignis, and we're glad for it because he has a complicated kit. And I have been having shouting matches with Inkwelder and Black Cloud on our Discord about how to evaluate Ignis, and I talked to a lot of the old JP players who use him. Fred of Triple Break, used him for months and months. I got to talk to him. I got to talk to a lot of other JP players, and then Inkwelder and our own Black Cloud had a lot of hands-on experience. So let's boil it all down. First of all, I would say Ignis is very much a character we talk about a lot, which is a jack of all trades, master of none. He has the two stances. He can be an offensive support character or a defensive support character, but he is not the best in either category. He is, and because of this, because of his lower buff and aura potencies, he's not a carry support. There are a lot of carry supports like Rosa, Sarah, and Ishtola, where you only need them, and that's the only support your team needs. And then you can build off of that. Ignis is very unlikely to be the only support you need on your team. He's very unlikely to carry a DPS and a tank or 2 DPS and make it through fine. He is a support's support. He seems to work best when you pair him with another support to kind of shore up what that support is missing. So if you throw in Rosa, who's a very offensive support, and you throw Ignis on his defensive stance of Memory Lane Pastry, he works wonders. Or if you do a defensive support, say... Shit, who's a defensive support? I can't think of any.
Selfie, Lena.
Yeah, Selfie. There you go. Selfie or Lena. He can go offensive for the burst waves. But he himself is not a plug-and-play character. Very, very not a plug-and-play character. I would say he's like what we said of VIII last week, which is when you plan around him and you know the fight in advance, he is such a strong character. But you really need a lot of work to make him work. But I can't dismiss him because when you make him work, he is a very good character. So not only is he more of a supplemental support, but when you bring him, that's another slot that's not going to have any brave shaving at all, which you got to consider. You got to you can't plan on using his EX because that will come up so rarely in a fight with his insane turn rates and his instant turns and his free turns, because you're mostly going to be spamming the Brave plus HP plus. As Inkwelder and Black Cloud have said, and actually most of the people who've 3-3'd him and used him for a long time, they say that don't bring Ignis if you plan to use Papa Bird and P and B don't for his offense stance, because it is not worth it. Bring him when you're planning on using the defensive stance with the regens and the debuff immunity. that is when he is at his best. He can do burst stuff with his offensive stance, but they said usually Ignis is going to be on defense duty with regens, and usually you're bringing him if you want the debuff immunity and just to shore up your support. That being said,
that being said, everyone brought Ignis as their solo support to tier 7. So
oh, well, but then I'm going to argue maybe they didn't need a full support for that round, because there are fights where you only barely need a healer, right? For tier 5, I brought Leon as my healer, because you barely need any healing. I mean, there are fights where you just need low support. I will stand by that. And a lot of these people who brought Ignis to 7 also brought Zack to nullify damage and tank it all.
Well, right.
Because, right. Oh,
right.
Yeah. Of course, you team build
Exactly.
around him, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
But he's not plug and play as like Rosa and Ishtola, is what I'm gonna argue. And I was saying for somebody with a lot of free turns, he seems to be unable to do fights where the turn counts are really, really tight, because he needs some runway to run with his Brave and HP pluses and his free turns, right? He can't really burst it. And I do recommend, a lot of people say, is you see how long you can stretch out your abilities until you reach the final wave, and then you do back-to-back abilities just to charge the EX when you need it, in Chaos when the defense spikes near the end of the fight, or when you summon. With all that said, I don't think he's a bad character at all. Extremely hard to use, but I don't think he's a bad character. Debuff immunity. He's the only debuff immunity for 3+ months. Easy. Lena doesn't come until almost 4 months later, and she's the next one. Selfie comes a little earlier, but it's 60% as opposed to 100%. So I think that alone, being the only EX plus debuff immunity character, and it's a great debuff immunity too, because it's aura based.
Yep.
So it doesn't wear off on faster characters, and a lot of his stuff is aura based too. So you want to run him with fast characters that can really benefit from it. He's not a buff based character; he's very aura based. And on that, the last thing I'll say is with debuff immunity, I think it's an amazingly useful tool. But as a lot of people have argued, it is not necessary. It's basically like Lena. You didn't need the debuff immunity, but Lena's debuff immunity helped me in so many fights, right?
Oh, you're going to go back to Lena's event and say you didn't need debuff immunity? That was one of the hardest fights in the game.
In her EX event, not the GL early EX, which is ridiculous.
That's what I'm talking about.
But that was an anomaly, right? Like, that was a GL exclusive. JP didn't have that in the natural timeline. But I'm saying, since she came back with her EX, like throughout Cosmos, her EX run through Cosmos to Ignis, like that's very comparable to Ignis right now. It wasn't needed. It was very nice to have. I enjoyed Lena. But a lot of people got through all of Cosmos without Lena as well, right? And I'm saying I do think Ignis will make your life easier, but I'm not going to say he's a must-have, because you can play around it. So with all that on the table, Ink and I finally agreed that the final rating is he is a viable pick. While he is a character that you can stretch for months, and a lot of JP players said they did, stretched until Pinello or stretched until Arciela, which is months and months in advance. The thing is, I don't say it's a strong pick, a strong investment, because you need a lot of planning to use Ignis. A lot of JP players said they used Ignis because they didn't have Rosa or Ishtola. He's probably like third runner-up. He's a strong pick if you don't have those. And also, he's a character that benefits from a deep roster. Like, depending on the fight, you need different characters with him to run. So if you're a newer player, I cannot suggest Ignis is a strong pick unless you have no other supports. So I'm settling on viable as my final rating.
I think that's
fair. You guys
fair.
Want to counter any of that?
No, I think that's fair. I think he's definitely workable, and he has a he's very good if you need debuff immunity. And right now he's probably the best one who does that until others come and get their realizations. Just want to stop for a second. Luminasa says, thank you, TCC Podcast and the community. Without any of you, I'm sure I wouldn't have started clearing entropy. Y'all doing some great work. Thank you, Illuminasa, and congratulations for getting your first plate in Dimensions End Entropy. And we thank all of you for helping each other make that happen. So we can do the best we can to do that, and stay tuned for Tier 7. And if you pulled on Zack and you're trying to get through Tier 4, good, bring him there. He'll help you there first. But
as Icepick said, I want to point out really quick, Icepick in chat says, if you're a brand new player, you're probably going for Zack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's likely you'll pick up Ignis on the way, who can work at 0.3,
exactly,
which is the minimum investment. So, he is not bad of a pickup for a new player. And yeah, I agree. I'm just saying, if you're a new-ish player with like Rosa, you could probably survive not going for this.
Yeah, so no, go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just gonna say it's a great banner if you have neither EX. It's fantastic banner because you get 2 Dimensions End viable characters, one being quite cheap investment and the other just being amazing. But I wouldn't necessarily, And the reason I don't like Ignis personally is because, outside of his chef stuff, is that he's not the greatest solo support.
Right.
Like Mino said, it's better to bring him with an actual support and then use his debuff immunity stance.
Yeah, so the idea that you might have to play him as a utility character or have somebody else who has decent auras or has decent utility like Zack with him. That's how a lot of the characters play, and that's okay. But yeah, he's probably not, if you straight support, he's probably not as meta right now as Y'shtola or Rosa, unless you need debuff immunity real bad. And then he bumps up his viability a whole bunch. So, and as both Jin and Mino said, he is usable at just realization. You definitely want him realized, not just EX only. His realization unlocks his HP attack, so you do want that. But you can't get away without that. Of course, he'll be better with any investment that you put into him. All right, well, let's look at the community. Well, we do. And our podcast polls. Thank you, Quetz of MateriaBot fame, for putting our polls together from our community. And if you join our Discord, you can always submit a poll and let us know what you're going to do. 15 people willing to pity this banner. 7 using gems, 33 using tickets, and only 14 skipping. I would say pretty impressive considering we've had Zack's EX before, and you're able to get Zack's EX in the EX shop with tokens. So either a lot of people who have, like myself, not been able to get Zack and chose Y'shtola because I didn't have her from the EX shop, or people just pulling for Iggy. So cool. Of those who... this is very interesting. Of those who pulled Ignis, a lot of variation. 2 keeping it EX, 36 keeping it just realized, 3 investing 1 ingot, 2 investing 7 ingots, 10 investing 3 ingots. So very...
You got that backwards.
What? What did I say?
Oh, you said 2 investing 3 ingots. I think you mean
yes.
3 investing 2. Yeah. And then you said 3 investing 10 ingots.
Yes,
but
so
basically switch those numbers around, guys.
Yes, 3 investing 1, 7 investing 2, 10 investing 3. 35 just realizing, 2 keeping it EX. So yeah, kind of all over the board. But the majority of people just keeping him at 0 out of 3. Zack, on the other hand, very different story. 2 people, 2 brave souls. I'm going to name them out here. No, I'm joking. 2 people keeping Zack only at EX. No love for Zack. Maybe they don't have any books or anything. No one realizing him only. No one just investing 1. No one just investing 2. 67 fully realizing Zack's EX. And I think we all know why. He is the man of the hour. And I don't recall, Jin, if you said anything. Zack does get a decent B sphere that does work well on him. So you'll see many of us already have put Zack's B sphere on himself, and then he has a couple attack sphere slots that you can put in if you're looking for some extra help for Zack. So Slide is one of those brave souls that has books and abilities to realize him. He just doesn't want to because he's cool. So good luck, Slide. You don't need him, certainly. And he is not your type of character, so don't feel like you have to invest in any meta characters, right? There are no must-haves. There are some that make content just a little easier than others, and Zack is obviously one of those characters. Kreese, did you want to talk any? I think you're maybe the only one. I don't know if Jin, if you've gone. I think you've done it because you've done the chaos. Talk about the story a little bit, or I know we maybe get into a little bit more spoilery stuff next week because not everyone's done it, but just kind of introductory thoughts on the story, how this chapter compared to other chapters, some themes that we can expect, etc.
I'll step in and just say this story was much better than the last one, in my opinion. It still has some nonsense going on in it, and I think Mina will agree that most of this story is nonsense, but it has much better scenes overall, I felt. It didn't suffer so much from having to skirt around issues that popped up in the last story chapter.
Yeah, let that be known, Square Enix. Kreese, who's been an adamant defender of DFFO's story, has had enough up to this point where he's agreeing with me that most of it is nonsense at this point. I think, as Arrow pointed out, the amnesia stuff is getting really inconsistent and impractical at this point. And I wanted to say in our private chat, we were discussing it, and I said, and I think Kreese agreed with me here too, that the reason this chapter was so good was because all the Zack stuff touched on the plot very minimally. It was mostly fan service and emotional moments, which I think a crossover fan service game should be. Like, I just want 100% fan service scenes. I don't really need to know what the gods are doing or what the dark mannequins are doing or who has what type of amnesia, because it's so inconsistent anyway. It was so strong. Like, you use these games to bring people like Zack back to have closure that they didn't get in their main games. You know, he had a really touching talk with Cloud, which is really good. You know, a lot of him reflecting on what happened to him at the end of Crisis Core, his regrets, you know, how he faced that. You know, like, these character moments are what these fan service games are for. Not whatever the hell is happening with Materia and Spiritus. I really don't give a damn. I'm sorry. Or like the same 10 villains popping up, taking turns to pop up and do inconsequential things, even though earlier in an event they wanted to join the party for some reason. You know, like, that weakens the game a lot. But the fan service stuff, which I'm looking forward to seeing in the next chapter as well, that's where the game story shines the strongest. Jin Lee, do you have anything to talk about this story chapter, broad strokes?
I will quickly step in again and just say that I liked Fane's role in the story, this story chapter. It felt very true to his character, and it was nice that they were reminding us, yeah, he has actually allied with the main party.
Oh, I want to bring up that I feel very strung along that Sabin is in the official artwork for the chapter, but he only got one line of dialogue. Like, what the fuck, guys? This is false advertisement. I was really excited for Sabin to be in the story. Why even draw him on the picture? Yeah, I should have just thrown in Jack, because once again, he had more lines than most of the cast. So, you know.
You can't complain too much if Jack is getting lines, though.
At this point, if Jack shows up so much, I'm upset if he isn't in a chapter or an event, because he's just there all the time now.
You hear that, Joshua? More Jack.
I expect him to be in there. He's there all the time. Anyways, for characters that make no sense at all. But Jin Lee, do you have anything to add about the story?
I actually only watched the first half of the cutscenes. I kind of skipped them all, like, when it was taking too long, since I was rushing to the Chaos fight. But in general, so far, it seems pretty much better than the previous stories for sure.
Yeah. So
Mark,
I've not finished it yet. I've not had a lot of time to play this week, but so far so good. And kind of had to refresh yourself on the Genova and everything that happens there in Final Fantasy VII in terms of what Genova actually does, and that's good going into the remake of Final Fantasy VII to have a brush with that. Remember, oh yeah, that's something that can happen. But yeah.
Although I do remember we had a discussion with Dreamy about some of these nuances, and apparently the French translation was even worse than the English translation. So there were a lot of problems with him understanding what was going on.
Oh, in terms of playing Final Fantasy VII originally and trying to figure out what actually is happening. Yeah.
Well, trying to try to connect events of Final Fantasy VII to what was going on in the story chapter in some cases.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right.
And Dreamy is confirming that the French translation of FS7 is a massive meme.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so it goes. Well, that does bring us to a chaos fight. We also got co-op, so you can co-op this as well and do some co-op. And you can do the chaos fight or the cosmos fights in co-op. Is that true in this chapter as well? You can do those.
Yes, it is.
More difficult for the next
To
week.
reiterate, just to make it clear for everyone listening
Yeah.
to the podcast, you have 2 weeks to do the Cosmos and Chaos in co-op
Right.
if you want to co-op it. After that, the co-op period will end. You will still be able to do them solo, but no longer co-op. So 2 weeks from release. So 2 weeks from, what was it, Tuesday?
Tuesday.
So the reason for doing that would be if you're struggling with some of the harder content and you wanted to get the rewards, and there's good rewards, obviously, for doing that. And that's a good reason to come on to our Discord and find a group and say, hey, can you help me with this chaos? Help me with this cosmos. We'll come on and happily help you. 2 decent players can get you through with even an early account. So no problem. And hopefully we got some new viewers and some new people and some new players. So feel free to, just have your early set of characters. And if you've spent enough time catching up to this point in the game, you can get through that. There is a lot of content as a new player. So yeah.
There is no time limited rewards.
No.
Sorry, Jin Lee. I didn't mean to cut
fine.
you off. But I wonder if Joshua's going to try to pull the same thing he did the last story chapter, where he rushes to try to unlock the Chaos co-op so we can try it on stream.
Oh yeah, come on, Josh, please.
That would be awesome.
Try the chaos.
Josh, please unlock the Chaos co-op before the stream this time.
Oh, that'd be great.
That would be awesome.
I realized that I failed my duty this week of picking questions. So while I stall for time, guys, a lot of people have been asking where are the Aranea previews that they said in stream. It looks like they're following JP's example of releasing videos. JP, whenever a new character comes out, they usually do 2 videos. One 2 days before the event drops and another hours before the event drops. And I feel like that's what Global is doing with Aranea as well. And JP, how do they divide the 2 videos up? I want to say, one is the burst and the other is... one is the actual character and the other is like the synergy. Because, like synergies get like EX Plus and stuff. But I think pretty much... I think drawing on what Josh said on stream is that they're breaking Aranea's kit down into 2 videos because it's a pretty complex kit. They want to kind of dissect it. I know he said in main chord, he's like, the second video, I really struggled to get it under 2 minutes and 20 seconds, which is the limit on what Twitter gives you. So for everyone asking, just expect it over the weekend.
Yeah.
I think 1 is confirmed tomorrow, and then there's a second video, and if it's like JP, it'll be like less than 12 hours from the event. So just be patient. We'll see the character. Like this is the best. If they advertise it beforehand, it'd take hype away from current banners like, Ignis and Zack and stuff. So now you get to see how JP players feel. They only get to see the kit 24 hours before the banner hits. So, a lot of people are spoiled by how much foresight Global gets.
Eons is clarifying the JP video release. First video is the day before, the second is 4 hours prior to content release.
First video introduces characters, second is the stage and synergy. I'm pretty sure I said something almost like that. I can't be sure this many beers in, but I'm just going to stick to my guns. Instead, I covered that already. No, but thank you, Aeons. And now I will randomly pick a question because I did not
we
prepare.
haven't actually addressed the chaos fight, and I
Oh,
believe
thank
at
you.
least Jin Lee has done that. So,
Sorry,
Jin, did you want to talk a little bit about the chaos fight? I believe you fight. You fight something. Oh no, you fight Shinru, and then you fight a big dragon with Sephiroth. Right? Is it a two-wave chaos fight? Is that the chaos one?
Right.
I
Yeah,
think
it's a
the
two-wave.
Chaos boss is one of the mini bosses, and actually even the co-op boss from the last story chapter. At least it seemed like it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The
Jin.
first wave is the Planesgorger
Yeah.
Gold Dragon, and then the second wave is Sephiroth with the what's it called? It's kind of, it reminds me of that Tiamat in FF12. Oh, it's called the Sanctuary Keeper.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a big monster.
So
it's a big, scary monster. Yeah.
the fight is obviously targeted to the banner people that come out with it. So both waves do HP attacks, so you're gonna need a healer. Both waves do debuffs.
Yep.
The Planesgorger does a nasty one that has 5 debuffs for 8 turns. So pretty much they're kind of emphasizing Ignis's debuff evasion and his healing ability, and then obviously Zack's tanking ability. They're going to single target people for HP attacks. But the Planesgorger also does nasty AoE Brave attacks. I mean Brave plus HP attacks. And then the recast ability from the Sanctuary Keeper is actually an AoE Brave plus HP attack that inflicts stop for 2 turns and blind for 1 turn. When I initially ran this, I ran it blind, so I did not bring an ideal team. I brought Zack, Sephiroth, and Rosa, so nobody has debuff evasion. So it's doable without debuff evasion. You just kind of have to live with it. But the stop from the Sanctuary Keeper, it actually prevents the EX from charging for 2 turns. And then that's pretty much the worst of it. So it's actually not that bad of a fight. I would just focus on the Sanctuary Keeper and let Sephiroth do his thing. He will do Black Materia, which will HP attack everybody. So you cannot go this without a healer. But otherwise, just focus on the Sanctuary Keeper. And once he's dead, then Sephiroth is really easy too. So it's not that difficult of a fight, but you do have to work around its mechanics.
There is already a call to arms up for this chaos fight. So you can go to the MACNOL, Macno's Call to Arms. So you should see that for Story Act 2, Chapter 7 on Reddit. Just search Reddit for that. And, yep, you see a lot of people bringing Zack and some Yuffie love and lots of Iggies and lots of just cheese with Y'shtola and turn mechanics and Ultimecia, and turn mechanics. But yeah, even some full synergy teams, Zack, Iggy, and Noctis already throwing up there. Yep, people bringing out Lena, Selfie, trying to deal with those debuffs. I see a lot of Lena runs. Obviously, she is not realized, so go check that out. And if you're like Jin Lee and maybe you've already submitted a video, make sure if you record videos that you do submit them, and we enjoy that. So. Yeah, Dreamy's asking about butts. Yeah, we got to do some. Arrow and I have to do some Ignis and Bart's team comps here, as we have both of those characters, and not everybody does. So enjoy that. So Mino, now that you're ready, let's. What do you got for questions of the week?
Yeah, sorry, I went out of order there, talking about the Aranea stuff before the Chaos fight. But here are some questions. Araya on Discord asks, with Abyss Beta officially coming to an end and a new official version being announced, does this change how you are deciding how to pull or realize weapons? Are you shooting for more diversity, compared to just following JP Foresight?
Well, my plan is not pulling. I think that's the best plan. So don't
Jin,
spend
do you have any insight on this?
don't spend my resources.
Sorry, what was the question again?
Knowing that they're going to continue with Abyss, does that change your pull plans for adding more diversity to your roster?
Oh, no, not at all. Because pretty much you should be already diversifying your roster. So in general, you would be okay when Abyss comes either way.
Kreese, anything to add?
Nope, no changes to my strategies. I'm gonna keep shotgun pulling like I always do. That's an exaggeration. I don't shotgun pull as much as I used to.
Do you not?
But,
I thought you did a lot.
You don't need diversity if you have all the EXs, right?
I stopped shotgun pulling with gems a long while ago. It's just that I've had a couple of bad gem pulls lately, so that's the reason my reserves are low again.
Yeah.
Right. So
following along on people's stories on Facebook, if Josh is still listening or listening later, I'm so upset when I spend 10 tickets and 2 multi-pulls and don't get everything that I want instantly. So let's fix that. These terrible rates.
Guaranteed EX per pull, please.
Yeah, obviously. Like, what's wrong? I have yet to get an EX on my free pulls, and I think it should just be automatic. Should get, although I do like it in Japan. They have for the 3rd anniversary of the Japanese version of the game, they have an ongoing multi-pull. Every day you get a free multi-pull, and I didn't realize until today that you're getting G tokens with that pull. So every time you pull on it, you do get G tokens, but it's only, you don't get to exchange it for an EX, which I think would be cool. Why not? But you do get to exchange it for books or Power Stones, so that's fun. But
it's good to have like
a
general banner. Like I've played other gotchas that have just a general banner up all the time, right? Like when DFFO first launched, they had something like that. If that somehow becomes a more permanent thing down the line, like just not free pulls, just so like newbies can throw gems and get like any EX 35 or 15, which obviously might become necessary later as we get more and more weapon tiers. It's kind of just like any new player having to catch up should probably get a chance at that. Like I think that's a good idea. Clearly, this general banner in JP is getting great reception. So
yeah.
Just something for them to think about.
I still remember Record Keeper's free daily pull, which was a joke.
Every once in a while,
every weapon was on it, but the draw rate was like 0.01% for any 5-star.
I got a 6-star on one of my free daily pulls on Record Keeper after the 6 stars came out, so it was possible.
I stopped bothering with the free pull after a while because it was just garbage accumulating in my inventory when I was playing that game.
Yeah.
Moving
on.
This is a tough question, so I'll throw it at Jin Lee first. So Jin Lee, Drusane and Minion are double teaming to say, well, God, this is such a tough question. So Drusane's asking, which FF game has your if you had to pick one FF game that has the best kits in DFFOO. So like if you had to measure all the FF9 characters versus the FF6 characters versus the FF5 characters and overall which pool has the best kits, which would you pick? God, that's such a... And Minion's piggy banking off of that saying, also, whose kit do you think they screwed up the most compared to their source game? So, Jin Lee, you have the honor as guest to answer that first. Well, I think.
That's super easy.
That one's
so ridiculous.
Super easy.
Okay, we'll throw to Mark first.
There's no question. Final Fantasy VIII has the best overall kits in this game.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Not only now, but overall in the course of the game, every season of the game, FF8 comes back with kind of powerhouses. So yeah, sure, Emperor Emperor is really good right now, but really you're going to tell me the Final Fantasy 2 kits are the best kits? Yeah, Zack's really good, but really Final Fantasy 7? No, Final Fantasy 7's got some competition.
They're
I give you there.
They're okay.
But Final Fantasy 8 has a whole gambit of play styles. I think the one thing they're missing is a tank. I don't think there's really a tank from the Final Fantasy 8 team. And moving forward,
which game has the best kits and covers the most roles despite having a small roster? Final Fantasy V.
Final Fantasy
Oh,
V
good. I thought you were
does
going to say
have,
Type 0. Jesus.
Final Fantasy V will, once Galoof gets his stuff, does have a nice kind of diverse roster, yeah, for sure.
Jin Lee, do you have your answer yet?
Yeah, I guess I would say. I mean, I want to say Final Fantasy 7, but they don't actually have like legit supports.
Nope.
So I mean, I'd have to probably go with 9 because 9 covers pretty much all roles that you can possibly have. Like, especially once like Garnet is great, Beatrix is great, and then Freya is good, and then you got your DPS like Kuja.
Yep.
And Steiner is not terrible when he comes.
Yeah, I think
Zidane,
good at it.
Yeah.
I think
9 is pretty good.
I'm actually going to say FF12. I think their characters are all very strong. All of them.
You're very wrong. No. Yeah, no, FF12.
What?
Type
First
0
of all, Bosch
too,
is a great team.
There's just so many
Yeah,
Type 0
everyone in
characters.
chat is saying honorable mentions to Type 0 because they have
there's just so many.
Characters.
There's just so many characters. They're bound to have some good ones.
FF12
It does.
for
FF12
their
has
6
a
characters.
good
Come on,
shot.
for their 6 characters, you've got Dispeller Balthier with range damage. You've got Vaughn with like crazy elemental magic damage. Ash with the buffs that are still sort of unique to this day.
Will future Pinello heal?
Yes.
I mean, she heals right now. She just doesn't do it fast.
Oh, right.
She has
the regen.
She has the strongest regen because it used to last like 3 turns, 2 turns or something. She has the strongest regen in the game. So yeah, Pinello batteries and heals, and then Bosch is like a godly tank when he comes back. And Fran is an awesome debuffer. They cover all the roles.
You forgot about VIII.
Yeah.
VIII.
Super powerful.
He's ridiculous.
I thought you chose 12 because of VIII.
FF12, guys, come on. Okay. And then the second part of the question is there any one person's kit you think they completely botched?
Well, we've talked about Yuna more than one time, and just because obviously they started in one direction and went to another direction. That being said, I use Yuna all the time because she's my auto farmer.
A lot of early characters got screwed. Like, I think Balthier's base kit does not really reflect him well, especially compared to other FF12 characters that got a lot of their quickenings as abilities. Balthier and Pinello both kind of got the short end of the straw.
Yeah.
Guys, it's been like 3 years. How come Vivi can't learn any spell other than fire at this point?
He only knows fire.
Not even like Fire or Fireaga.
Yeah, he gets double cast. What are you complaining
double
about?
fire. Like what?
Well, I mean, he's a specialist.
Jin Lee.
I mean, Vaughn had his time, but I would say like he's been kind of screwed though because of just his release times and his EX was released late for us, so he was okay, but he wasn't that great. And then his EX Plus has all those elements, and he's just runs out too quickly. Like I don't really like use all his abilities except the last one to get that buff. It's just I think he kind of got screwed. He should be a great character, but he kind of fell off after his level 60 heyday.
All right. Oh, sorry. Did you have more, Jin?
Well, I agree with Trad. I mean, I agree with the chat that's saying Prish is pretty bad too.
But for a while, she was very powerful.
She was good in the beginning, yeah.
They got to really rework her with the LV. We'll see. But I mean, like when she came out, the kit was a good translation of the game, I guess. Okay, here we go. Soul Knight asks, what class do you think is underrepresented in DFFOO or hasn't tapped into their full potential?
Blue
He says
mages?
for him, samurai is
Oh.
his pick. What would you like to see less of? He says monks.
Oh, so
And
many
what
monks.
classes each host personally favor? He says paladin. But basically, I think the juicy question there is what class is underrepresented in DFFOO?
Blue mage.
But like, what can you do with a blue mage?
I'm not.
Like,
I'm not a fan of blue mages, anyways.
I'm just saying, there's really not any blue. There's a couple. Kamari, I guess,
Yeah.
is the closest thing we have right now to a blue mage.
Bart's gets a missile, which is a blue
Yeah,
mage
Bart's
ability
is-
yeah,
traditionally.
Bart's has the
Yeah.
blue mage missile. Yep.
Quistis, you forgot Quistis.
Well, I guess she does get her, but most of her abilities are really based on her whips, not based on, like she doesn't have bad breath or anything like that, like Kamari has. So
I would say like Realm and Strago kind of compare. Erole is saying Mystic Knight. Erole, any swordsman that has an element is a Mystic Knight. So
yep,
there's like
Beatrix,
50 of them.
She's a
Yeah,
paladin.
Beatrix, Lightning. Come on, like who elemental swordsman? There's so many. Leon, sure.
But we're
Let's throw
talking
him in
about
there.
underrated.
Leon's a Dark Knight.
Underrepresented. Leon is
Yeah.
a Dark Knight.
Same thing, guys.
Same thing. Yeah, machinist. Yeah, Harris the same machinist. So Edgar is our machinist. He doesn't do a lot of that. He does, I guess, a little bit. He's good against robots. So, yeah, and it depends on which Final Fantasy you're playing because obviously a lot get away from it. And if you're bringing into the multiplayer games, then yeah, who knows? But traditionally, you have your white mage, black mage, red mage, thief, fighter, and
Speaking
then
of, we only have one red mage in the game right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say red mages. There's not
Alice.
there's not a ton of red mages, or what we would consider really good red mage characters, and obviously that's a complicated situation. But yeah, really not a lot of red mage love, and not a lot of really. I mean, there's some thief mechanics, but Yuffie, Beltier, Zidane have a little bit, but yeah.
Locke and Zidane get a lot of thief
Locke
abilities.
does have the thief mechanics. Yep.
Aren't there? I mean,
Yuffie kind of has
Yuffie,
some
yeah,
stuff that are based on it too.
because she steals buffs.
Yeah,
That's
Yuffie.
thief
Yeah,
like.
that's why I said Yuffie.
Oh, you guys covered all the classes, so I got no answer. Jin,
Yeah.
you have anything to add?
Mime.
I mean, I'm always a fan of the ninja class. I guess we need more ninjas.
Yeah, Dreamy was saying ninja, but there are so many strong ninjas coming up. First of all, I think Yuffie.
We don't have them
Yuffie
right
as
now.
Yuffie as a ninja.
There's only two
is
of
pretty
them.
okay, guys.
That's
Yuffie
not that
is
many.
pretty okay. Yuffie's pretty okay right now. I'm gonna defend that right now. And then Edge is coming up soon.
Edge,
Yeah, there's two
Edge
of them.
and Shadow are both.
And then
gonna
Edge
be
Shadow
is
is
good.
kind of more of an elemental mage than a more like
Yeah, true.
throwy mage.
But he is a ninja.
He's called a ninja. That's good enough.
He is a ninja. Yeah,
Shadow's
people
coming
are
up and he's gonna be strong.
people are saying in chat now, time mage, and that would be Strago has some time mage abilities when he comes in Japan, right? Ultimisha is really a time mage, and you see that in her free turn mechanics. I think that's. I mean, she's a bad guy, obviously, but Geomancer is the other one. We don't have any Geomancers, I don't think.
Geomancers aren't really represented by main Final Fantasy rosters, though.
No,
That's like a tactics thing.
Mog is sort of a geomancer.
Mog still isn't in the game unless you count
Yeah.
Mog the Guide.
yeah, you start getting into the MMOs or tactics, and you get all kinds of crazy classes.
Yeah, we get
Um,
a calculator.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the Mog event where it turns out our Mog was actually just Mog all along.
Yeah,
And he's a
Final
recruitable
Fantasy.
there.
Final Fantasy 12 does have a lot of class, as do some of the early Final Fantasy has a lot of different class options. So yeah, thank you. Going on to another. You got another question? I don't know where you are in your questions.
No, let's we can wrap it up and do the preview for what's coming
Oh
up,
wait,
right?
there is one more important question we got to cover quickly, so we
Okay.
can get this off the list. You ready?
Yes.
Do any of the hosts think Cole King has a mullet?
Yeah,
Yeah. Is it? He's got a.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a mullet, right?
Yes.
He's definitely.
That's pretty much in my
country.
video title. He has a mullet.
Why did you bring this up? Why did you bring this up, Chris?
Does he
Because I
not?
wanted to end on a humorous note and delete that comment.
Does
What
he
a
need?
nonsense question. Yes.
I'm looking,
okay.
I'm
I
looking
think
at the
we're all
mullet right now.
unanimous, guys.
Can I turn him around? How do you? Can you get some different views here to see?
Not yet. Remember in the
It's,
JP
it's
version.
definitely
Oh
a
yeah,
party in
no,
the
no.
back.
If you look, yeah,
Party
he's.
in the back.
Yep, yeah. It's all business up top, but there's a party in the back. That's right. Rapid mullet. Heretic says, very nice. Well, thank you. You can submit your questions under our podcast questions under our podcast tab on our Discord. So do thank you all for joining us. So looking ahead, of course, the exciting global first character, Aranea, her event Commodore of the Skies, is coming on the 16th. Rinoa's LC, Where to Go, 20th. Gao's event. Now there's some conversation about how you pronounce that. How do you pronounce his name?
You were saying it right. We settled it. Even Square Enix Joshua was with me on this. United Front, it's Gao.
Gao.
So
okay. How else
yeah,
are
it's
people
Gao.
saying it?
Like cow,
Yeah.
but with a G.
Yeah, Gao.
Gao.
Yeah.
People were saying like Ga. People are saying Ga. People are saying Go. I
Okay.
have no idea
Gao.
how they're getting these pronunciations.
So Gao is coming to Global, and his event is on the 23rd. And then we're likely going to have an Awakening Wave and some Heretic quests on the 27th. That would be the 8th Awakening Wave. But we will have a mobile stream. Oh, no, we do. That's in the calendar, isn't it? So that's official. But we will have a mobile stream the last Monday of the month telling us what to expect moving forward. Remember, for the rest of this month, we are getting free polls on all of our banners. One free poll, so that is nice because, hey, you never know what you're going to get. Or if you are, investing in a banner, that is one less poll that you have to do to pity to get that. So that is nice as well. Thank you all for. Go ahead. Eddie.
Just a second. Breaking news here. Polish Prince 88 wants to reignite the King Mullet debate, saying, actually, I don't think it's a true mullet. I think he has long hair in the front and he's slicking it back to look like a mullet. Can we get a judgment, a decision on that? Is that true, guys?
I'm gonna have to play Final Fantasy Type 0 to really. I'll have to look at some cutscenes over the week and do some investigative.
Yeah, I agree. Polish Prince, this is.
We need more time.
Yeah, this is an important matter. We need to give it considerate deliberation. So we'll have your answer next week.
Yeah, I think we're moving towards mullet, but hey, we could be wrong. So he pulls it off. I think that's all that matters. He's got a Billy Ray Cyrus. Hannah Montana's dad. He's got that, and I know the kids like him now because of that Old Town Road.
Oh my
song.
God, are we knowing Bill? Are we calling Billy Ray Cyrus? Fuck, I can't do his name anymore. Are we really saying he's more famous as Hannah Montana's dad at this point?
Well,
really
he's more famous as the guy who sings
Old Town Road
with Little Nas. Yeah, so
that's even worse.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Way to make me feel old today, Mark.
yeah.
That
So
oof.
currently he is the guy that sings with Little Nas, and I'm not sure that I'm saying that right. The only reason I like that song is because it's based on a Nine Inch Nails track, so I think that's hilarious because that's my favorite band. But yes, he's definitely Hannah Montana's dad, and she had the best of both worlds. Great show. Encourage you to go watch it.
God, no.
It's very wholesome.
Sponsored by Disney.
Before she
Mark's
before
on
she went
fire
crazy.
right now. Mark's on fire right now. Holy
I love Hannah Montana. Good times. Anyway,
speaking of memes, sorry,
Yeah.
really quick with the recipe memes. I want to
Recipe.
address it. I think it's too late now. A lot of people were mad that it's called Quick Recipe in FF15 and in DFFOO now, and I just don't understand why people are upset. Memes have been such a big thing. That's how we got Son of a Sub.
Yep.
It's literally just a GL meme.
That's a meme.
And this guy R6 in FF7. People loved these when they were kids, and now I guess everyone's old and bitter, and they don't like new memes with the quick recipe thing. Like, I think you have to be a hell of a boomer to be upset at Square Enix's localization choice here, guys. Come on. You guys are all hypocrites. You enjoy the old memes. Let the kids have the new memes.
Wouldn't it be a hell of a millennial based on the timing?
Yeah. I don't think there's a lot of boomers playing Final Fantasy right now. So,
because it would be the millennial generation that grew up with 6, 7, 8, and 5 and 4.
Older
group.
Gen Xers maybe play.
Speaking of which, don't forget the FF5 meme of let's fight like men and ladies who dress like men, right? Like that's another.
Let's fight like men and ladies who dress like men. That isn't really a meme. The Wyverns thing is a meme.
Well, I mean, I consider the Gilgamesh thing a meme because it wasn't in the JP version. It was a localization thing only, just like this quick recipe thing. But either way, Kreese, you also make me feel old today. You're right. It's a millennial. Holy shit, guys, both of you. Right before Valentine's Day, you guys ruined my weekend.
Don't worry, you'll forget about this because you traded it
off. You all are millennials, so I don't know what we're talking about. So.
Oh, and Polish Prince says, "I don't need this" is a total meme.
I don't need this.
Well, no. That's what it's called in Japanese, though. In Japanese, like I said, Yuffie's 2 moves are called "I don't need this" and "Thanks for," I'll take that and "I don't need this." So that's actually, I don't get it.
We got what, Snatch and Rebuke is the original names?
Yep.
Yeah, those are awful. Yeah, they're okay, I guess. Whatever.
Talked about Yuffie Snatch. That is a different episode.
Oh God.
Is that why they kept that one? Is that why Rebuff is the only one that got renamed because of the memes? You know what? I have a lot of respect for them keeping Snatch now for Yuffie. I can't hate.
This is turning into non-PG.
It's non-PG. Anyway, so that means it's time to wrap up. Thank you all for joining us here on Twitch. You can catch the show every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. We will be back next week to talk about Aranea. You can catch up with all of our stuff at tccpodcast.com. Get all of our episodes. We had a little stream issue. I'm not sure what happened. So I will do my best to cut those together so the podcast should be very listenable. If you missed some stuff, the videos may be a little bit more. But if you are joining us on video on demand or YouTube, you can catch all of our stuff however you like it, or listen to it as a podcast on any of your favorite podcast apps. And if you do, please give us a rate and a like wherever you're doing there. Thank you for all of you who are supporting our whole team who's made this happen. Dreamy, thank you for that new introduction. So very cool. Appreciate everybody who worked on that. And thank you, Jen, for joining us tonight. And how can we get in touch with you and check out your good material?
Thank you for having me. I'm just on YouTube. Just search Jin Lee, Jinlee. You should be able to find me pretty easily.
Jin Lee does amazing runs. I very rarely watch runs, and I only watch his and Strafe's and Arrowline sometimes. But Jin Lee, amazing runs. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, Jin is
and he has some guides up there as well.
Very skilled player and has started branching out in some audio content. So I appreciate that. And he did a very, very excellent review on Zack. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Zack, check out his video on Zack, and he runs through that chaos as well. So really cool to see how he kind of thinks through the fights too. Because not a lot of the run fights that we have, even on the Call to Arms, do have that audio commentary. I think that is helpful, especially if you're still trying to figure out how to play the game. Do check out Macnol's Call to Arms, MACNOL. Do check out the Tonberry Troops infographics. They're all wonderful, great. Very truthfully, the infographic for Ignis is very, very useful if you're trying to figure out how to play him. That's going to be a really good quick guide for you to figure out, okay, which stance is which, what does it do. Have that in your back pocket and check that out as well. We link that in the show notes. Join our Discord and follow us on all of our social media. Yes, Mino.
Mark, really quick, while we're talking about Tonberry Troop, they are going to do a live stream of their Aranea infographic on Sunday. If you guys want to join that, we should. I think us at TCC are going to post that stuff on social media to advertise it. But they did a live creation of Ignis's infographic last week, which is a great hit. Tonberry Trooper are close friends, and once Aranea's info drops, they plan to do a live infographic creation with Inkwelder and Dreamy on Sunday whenever the video drops, hours before the event. So look forward to that, guys.
Awesome. That'll be a lot of fun to watch, and it is kind of neat to see how they do it. And thank you all for that. Well, for myself, Mino Spellgood, Kreese, aka Zarink, and Jin Lee, this has been episode 89 of the Crystal Chronicles. And until next time, all of you, best of luck with your GL First Aranea pulls. We hope you get it in the free one, and if not, I hope it's not too painful, and enjoy that excitement as we get closer and closer to Sunday night here in the United States. Until then, best of luck, and goodbye.